Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a kind of special edition episode of the Media Boat Podcast, where we'll talk about music, movies, TV, and video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us this week on the Media Boat Podcast. This is April the 3rd, 2025. It is episode 481 this week. And yeah, as you implied, we have some big news this week coming straight from Nintendo. It's time. We very rarely, I think this may be the third time we've talked about a new console on this podcast. We were there for the PS5 and Xbox
Yes,
Serieses.
yes. And we're going to talk
But
about the Steam Decks or console. Oh no, we talk about the Ouya and the failure of the
yeah,
Ouya.
well, yeah.
We talk about the
And I guess
Stadia
this,
and the
I
failure of
guess
the Stadia.
when we started, the Switch was brand new. Can you believe that?
Yes, 2016.
Yeah. But this week, Nintendo announced the full plans for the Switch 2. We'll get into it in a moment. We will be starting with video games. But before we go into news,
We
let's
got to
start it
start
up.
with new releases.
Yes.
And just a couple of handfuls here, including Penny Garden for the PC, Commandos: Origins for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. Not north, but south of midnight for the PC and Xbox Series X. And what year is it? And which remastered number is this? Because it's The Last of Us Part 2 remastered for the PC this time.
Yes, PC players will finally get the remastered version of Last of Us Part 2 that came out on PS5 last year.
All
It's
right.
also why Neil Druckmann's been back in the news saying stupid stuff again. Did you see this? That apparently he said he's on record now of saying that he thinks that Joel's decision, what Joel decides to do at the end of Last of Us 1 was correct.
You mean the guy who made the game is telling everyone he made the correct decision and making his main character make the decision, the controversial decision for all the other players?
Correct.
It sounds like he's patting himself on the back too
A
much
little
there.
bit. Also, he's wrong. Like that's also true. But no, like we said, that's not the news this week. No, instead, the news this week is the Switch 2. I think the best way to tackle this news is, oh, yeah, I should also mention South of Midnight Game Pass day one. So that will be out this week.
All right. So
Anyway,
you've got us broken down here into three separate
yes,
categories:
I think
the
let's go
system,
through. Yes.
the first party, and the rest, the third parties.
Yeah, basically, this is roughly how Nintendo presented this information as well. They kind of divided their presentation into thirds. But basically, yeah, first we'll talk about the system specs, what we know about the Switch 2, what it can do, what it's capable of, and the differences between it and the original. Then let's talk about the exciting first party Nintendo games and what they're doing with programs like Switch Online. And then lastly, we'll talk about the third party games, a lot of ports, but a couple of surprises from some studios that we'll talk about. But yeah, let's start at the very top. Give me the down low. What is the Switch 2? What do we know?
So the sequel to the Switch is officially confirmed by Nintendo to be titled Switch 2. The second time they're putting a number in their console?
I mean,
Because I'm
if the
counting
Nintendo
64.
64 counts,
Yes.
that is
Oh,
this
3DS.
is
Sorry, third time.
yeah, the 3DS and the 2DS technically did
Yeah,
have
so
numbers
fourth
in it.
time then. Well,
But this,
was there 2DS? I thought it was just the DS. Or
yeah,
you're
but
calling
this
it
is
2DS?
no. The 2DS was a non 3D version of the 3DS. It played the
Oh,
same games.
yeah, I guess you're right. So the fourth
Um,
time they're putting a number in their console.
but yeah, you can bring up a good point. It's one of the few times Nintendo has ever released a direct sequel to one of their consoles. You can look at the Super Nintendo as a precedent for this, and roughly the Wii U. But this is only the
And
third
roughly the
time
Game
that
Boy
they've done that.
Color.
Well, I'm talking home console, although you're right. The Switch kind of blurs those lines as both. So yeah, you're right. It is more of a Game Boy-esque move, a handheld move, than it is a console move.
Right. So Switch 2 will officially launch in 2 months from now
Mhm.
on June 5th. And here's where we kind of like fumble the ball of like, were you right on the pricing or not? Because
Yeah.
technically, you can get the Switch 2 for $450, but that is just the system. It does
Mhm.
not come with any games.
Right.
However, you could bundle with a copy of the Switch system and Mario Kart World, which would be releasing day and date as the
Mhm.
system for $500. Which
Yes.
technically you're right because the console doesn't come with any games.
Mhm.
So it's like, which way do you want to lean? Because most people, myself included,
Mhm.
would kind of lean more towards the Mario Kart World bundle,
Exactly.
especially if you're getting it for just $50
Yeah.
compared to the other games, which we'll talk to
Yeah.
in a bit here.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think it's a Trojan horse strategy. It's like they know that most people are who buy the system are going to want to buy Mario Kart anyways. So really, it's a $500 system when you're thinking about it that way. However, if you buy the core system without a game and you have a Switch 1 library, you do have all those games. So it's not like you're buying nothing. So
Mhm.
there's an argument for both. But like you said, chances are if you're buying one of these things, it's because you want to play Mario Kart. And it's a no-brainer to just get the one that saves you $30 on Mario Kart.
And we'll put a pin in Mario Kart World for now. We'll
Yeah,
come back to
talk
that
about it
in
later.
first party games. But let's
Yeah.
talk about the system. So we got what we wanted. It's a 4K experience.
I'm gonna put an asterisk here.
Docked.
Nintendo was not very clear about what they mean by this. In the video, they said that at 4K capability in docked mode, you're right, not natively on the handheld screen, which makes sense.
Mhm.
But yeah, in docked mode, you will get 4K resolution on certain games. They confirmed that some games that will get that upgrade, which again, we'll talk about later, include Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. What we don't quite know, and Nintendo didn't specify in the video yesterday, was whether or not this is native 4K or upscaled. NVIDIA today said that the chip that's in the Switch 2 does have DLSS, like we had previously talked about in a rumor capacity.
Mhm.
Everybody assumed, oh, well, there's upscaling technology, kind of like the stuff that's in the PS5, that NVIDIA is implementing on the Switch 2. NVIDIA more or less confirmed that, even though Nintendo hasn't. So keep that in mind, that what's actually happening might be upscaling, but to the average Nintendo player, they're probably not going to notice.
Right. But you do bring up an interesting point here that the Switch 2 was built and developed in part and parcel with NVIDIA as well.
Which the Switch one was as well. The chip that's on it is basically a chip that they developed for their mobile platforms, but it's a specified, like original version specified for the Switch's needs.
Mhm.
So that's just what happened again.
Right. So if you're not going to play in docked mode, which I'm sorry, you will still get a 1080p screen
Yeah,
and 120 frame rate capability.
yeah, those are
The
all upgrades.
Yep, the internal storage is 8 times up from 32 gigs to 256 gigabytes
Mm.
of storage.
Yeah.
But you could also have additional storage with a micro SD EX card.
Yes, so the Express cards that are exclusive are the only way to save games on the Switch 2. You cannot use a basic micro SD on there. So if you have game saves from the Switch 1, they will not be able to move over by just putting the micro SD in your Switch 2. That won't be compatible. You'll need to do a full system transfer in order to get those saves over.
Yep. So for those of you who spent $100 on those Nintendo specific SD cards,
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Nintendo has your money now.
But yeah, otherwise, good news. The more storage is good because games have gotten a lot bigger since
Mhm.
2016. I mean, that's what, two Call of Duties,
Uh,
roughly?
yeah, we could put that in there. Two Call of Duties, uh, three Maddens, probably.
Yeah, roughly.
Nothing's exceeding 200 gigabytes of storage yet.
Yes. Yeah, just wait. GTA
All right.
6 comes out later this year.
Yes. Well, the Switch support it.
We'll see.
According to the specs, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. So aside from the system, you still get two Joy-Con controllers. They do have additional mouse function capability, as it was rumored, as
Mhm.
well as they now connect magnetically to the Switch dock,
Yep.
and you no longer need to have an additional backslide to it for more for pressing those back right and left
Yeah.
buttons.
Yeah. It seems like an upgrade. Seems like a more comfortable, like slightly bigger controller. And yeah,
Mhm.
the magnet means that it's easier to put them on and take them off. There's like a lever in the back, which seems neat.
Right, a little push button for magnet
Instead of
on,
that
magnet off.
little button on the Switch one, which was really hard sometimes to get working.
Yes, they didn't specify anything to deal with drifting compatibility or any
No,
errors like that, but
they
it's
didn't.
something to keep aware of in the future.
Yes.
But yeah, you can now just play the Joy-Cons as they come. Um, you can also get additional Joy-Cons for an additional, I think it was $100.
Yeah, which is a lot.
Hmm. But there were some new accessories added to the system itself. The big one being that mysterious C button located on the controller. While
Hmm.
it wasn't necessarily the capture button like most people were thinking of, instead it was it's not really a new innovation, but it's now game chat
Yeah.
is what Nintendo's calling it.
Yes.
Yeah, as you have here, it's basically Xbox Live, just 20 years later.
Yeah, game chat essentially looks like a party system, like the same
Mhm.
kind of party system that Microsoft and Sony have had for what, 3 generations now? Basically, it allows you to party up with your friends, and the C button now will bring up kind of like a hub where you can see all of their screens, and see what games they're playing, so you guys can work together, or you can watch each other stream each other. That kind of vibe. There's voice chat. There's a microphone that is built into the system itself, meaning that it doesn't require a headset for chat. Um, However, it does appear that both the console and the Pro controllers are now shipping with audio jacks, implying that there will be compatibility with headsets if you have one, which is neat.
Right. You can have additional like Bluetooth accessories to
Right.
plug into those head
Yeah,
jacks to help communicate even better. Because they
that's neat.
do mention that it does include 3D audio in the
Yes.
console itself.
Yeah.
But if you want to expand that out into 3D audio headsets,
Yeah.
there's now a way to do that. Plus, there's an additional USB import, not just at the bottom, which was screwing a lot of people over for the
Yes, at the
Switch.
top.
There's now at the top as well.
Phone manufacturers, I am begging you to do this.
Have them on
Please.
both. It
Have them
can
on
be
both.
both.
Anyways, but yeah, no, it seems really basic, but part of me is just like, we should just be happy that Nintendo finally got here. Because yeah, this basically brings it up to relatively feature parity with the other modern consoles and with PCs. Like you can chat with your friends now, you can like stream with each other, and with the next thing you're going to talk about, the camera accessory, it also brings game streaming to the Switch 2 in an upgraded capacity. But that's not the only thing that the camera can do.
Yes, because it's a Connect camera. Although it's not a long, like chocolate block anymore.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's a camera, ball camera on a stick.
Yeah, someone said it kind of reminded them of the Pixar lamp. I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong. I was gonna go with Pikmin, but like a
Pikmin?
very skinny Pikmin. Or not Pikmin, Osmo, the character in Pikmin. But not,
Oh,
yeah, the
Olimar?
astronaut. Oh, that's it, Olimar. Because I did not play Pikmin.
Clearly.
The closest thing I get to Pikmin is in Super Smash Brothers, and even then,
Sure.
I don't play as them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a new camera. It allows you to video chat, but
Yeah.
according to the new Mario Jamboree and TV, that you can have like bubble screens of your character,
And it,
and like you mentioned,
yeah.
Connect-esque game functions where it'll
Yeah.
show your actions on the screen and like manipulate the games.
It is fascinating that we're in 2025 and Nintendo decided that they were all of a sudden inspired by the Connect slash PlayStation Eye era of video gaming, which is literally like 15 years ago now. It's so crazy that they were just like, yeah, no, let's do that. What gave you this idea? And
I'll give you two things. One, uh, Just Dance,
sure,
hugely popular
yeah,
on the Switch with its controllers and motion controllers. And two, the very well rumored return of like Me Island or Miiverse or
oh
Me
yeah,
World or whatever they're going to call it
sure,
as a way to communicate and help like explore this in addition to like game chat your friends
yeah,
and create more communities in this within the Switch ecosystem.
yeah. No, it'll add a lot of stuff. And we'll talk about some of the specifics later when we talk about the games. But yeah, um, it just seems weird for someone who's been watching this stuff happen over the last 20 years to see that happen. I'm like, whoa, okay, all right,
It is a
Nintendo
little thing
bringing this back.
who specifically requested the camera for a Switch? Like they're looking at like, okay,
Yeah,
you can get a camera for a PlayStation, you can technically get a camera for a Xbox,
yeah, they sell
but we can't
cameras,
do it
but
for the Switch.
they're not really
Why
game
not?
peripherals. Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
really game peripherals. They sell them, but they're basically for streaming, essentially. And so
Mhm.
yeah, it's interesting to see Nintendo doing that here. So yeah, overall, that's basically what we know about the system, but there is one little bit that we need to talk about, which is, do you think it is too expensive?
At $500, I'm just gonna keep calling it $500. Yes, there's the 415 mark for the system, but once you put tax and tariff and whatever else on it, it's going to be $500 for here in the US.
I mean, yeah, you briefly brought it up there, but yeah, let's be real. It's not a coincidence that the day this thing gets announced is the same day that later our president decides that, oh yeah, he's going to tariff everybody, including Japan. So here's kind of the meta discussion over the Switch 2 that's been happening over the last 24 hours, 48 now. It seems like, yeah, like Nintendo did this on purpose because they wanted to cover their butts. In Japan, there is a Japanese language only version of the base Switch console. It is cheaper than the what they're calling international version that is available everywhere else. They're only selling it in Japan and they're only selling it in retail stores in Japan. They're covering their own their own
Demographic, their
country's
own
sales,
base.
their
Yeah.
own base fan base, basically saying like, "We got you guys. Everybody else is gonna have to pay the Trump tax, but you guys are fine, and like we'll cultivate this like goodwill because Japan has similarly had a kind of a rough economy over the last handful of years. There's been reports about people saying that, like, yeah, games have become less affordable. It's one of the reasons why you see Steam and PC gaming growing in Japan right now,
Mhm.
and phone gaming remaining the biggest source of people playing video games. The Switch worked at the time because it got in right under the kind of right under
Before Pokemon Go was everywhere.
the wire, and yeah, roughly the same time actually. And like so that kind of got grandfathered in, but video games just got so expensive that console gaming has not continued to rise in Japan as much as it has here.
Oh, we'll talk about expensive games
Yeah.
in a bit here.
And so it's interesting to see how this has all affected Nintendo's plans here. Well, again, we'll talk about the pricing, as you said, with the games later, which has also got a lot of people riled up. But I honestly, going into this, did not expect the conversation to just be about the pricing. I think that Switch 2 is a very impressive system. I think there's a reason why Nintendo didn't say the price in the show, though, is because they knew that that was going to dominate the discourse, and they were
Mhm.
right. And so it's been a very interesting. I have it written down here, a tale of two vibes about the Switch 2, and that's
Yes.
totally what it is. Everybody loved the presentation. Everybody was really impressed with the Switch. They showed, and we'll talk about the games, but they showed a really impressive array of games, and it does really impressive stuff. And again, like I said, it brings them to parity with their rivals, ostensible rivals, I mean. And finally gets the Switch 2 looking like a modern console. The problem is that if everybody's stuck on whether they can afford it or not, this is just the PS3 all over again. This is the if the conversation is I don't know anymore if I'm going to buy this thing at launch, Nintendo has a problem on their hands. But unfortunately, it's a problem that they didn't even cause. They're protecting their own bottom line against a trade war that has nothing to do with their country. And so it's a frustrating combination of things where it's like, yeah, we'd love to be excited about these new Nintendo games, but they had to price them high in order to presumably make this worth their while. And it's a rough combination of things.
Yeah, Nintendo's always been seen as the family console. The family
Yeah.
comes together ever since the Wii, even before the Wii, that they come together to play as a family, even in their original commercials. We would like to play. Come on over and we'll
Mhm.
play together. And they've kind of kept that going. But here at $500, you're now kind of battling, especially for not just like us, but any type of family where for $500, do you get just the Switch 2 for just games now, especially coming to the holiday season? Or do you spend it on a PlayStation or an Xbox where you also get a media entertainment system out of it too?
Yes. Where you get in for $400 and if you're and the games are only and if you buy them digitally, go from $20, to 40 for games that are about a year old. That's a way better argument than Nintendo games right now that never go down in price. Somebody was
Mhm.
joking, Breath of the Wild like has barely moved from that original $60 price point. And now it's going up $10 for the Switch 2 version.
I'm pretty sure you can find Twilight Princess still at $50 at Best Buy somewhere.
Exactly. Nintendo is notorious for never dropping their prices. And so that creates a real complicated thing. I know we're going long on the system portion, but what I will say to wrap this part up, I've been thinking a lot about the last like since the price got announced.
Hmm.
The thing that I keep thinking about is Nintendo is basically the Disney of video games. That's kind of their vibe. And I kept coming back to my brain because it's my brain, kept coming back to remember when Disney started releasing VHS tapes of their classics.
Hmm.
VHS was a relatively new market. No one really knew how to deal with them. And previously, they had only basically sold them to video rental stores. It was a burgeoning, like the market of owning VHS tapes was brand new idea to most people. They were selling those things at like 70 to $80 a pop because it was twofold. It was basically, this is the only way we're going to make our money back, which because this is how much these are actually worth. And at the time. And two, they did it because they wanted to cultivate this prestige, right? Like the Disney Vault was a real thing, and they wanted to be like, this is your only chance. This is only available for a limited time, and the premium price is because of how valuable Pinocchio is to own, or Cinderella, or whatever. And people just ate it because it was like the Disney tax. This move plus the price of the games really feels like we're seeing a Nintendo tax for the first time. Like Nintendo saying, yeah, we're the only game in town that gives you the things that we can offer. They proved with the Switch that that is the company that they are now. They are more powerful and have sold more consoles than they've ever sold. And the NES and the Wii were enormous successes. So to say that means you don't even understand, like, it's unfathomable how successful Nintendo is right now. And they feel the hubris has finally caught up. I think this is as much of a tariff move is also a power move, saying Nintendo is like, well, yeah, we're going to do it. They could have perhaps not protected their butt on the tariff stuff and launched this at 399 and launched the games at a reasonable price. But the fact that they did it means that they know that their fan base is so strong that they will buy it anyways. And you know what? They're probably right. But we'll see because yeah, the tide is slowly turning. I am seeing conversations about people being like, maybe not, but it's still Nintendo. It's still a Switch, and I don't know. I honestly don't know which way this goes.
All right. So here's I'm going to come in here with the it's a business side of this talk, okay?
Sure.
Because going back to the chip discussion about NVIDIA creating this, just remember 5 years ago, there was a chip shortage and
Yeah.
people couldn't get PS5s out the door fast enough, and they're turning over and being resold on the market just for like absurd
Yeah.
costs. This could be Nintendo's way of preventing that kind of mass market rush to this. Yes, people are still going to buy it. People are still pay the price. Just like you said, Disney. Disney raises the price for Disneyland. People still go.
Hmm.
They still pay those absurd prices, and they still have fun with it. The 500 entry point here is that kind of dividing line between like yes and no, and is this like the thing, and is this not the thing? Because, like you said, Nintendo stuff does not go down. So this 500 price point is going to stay that 500 price point, not just for 2025, for next year and the year after that and the year after that, for at least the first like 5, maybe 10 years. The Switch is currently rapidly catching up to the PlayStation 2, the biggest selling console of all time. It will probably pass that within the next year or so. And so with Nintendo seeing that, hey, we're if we're already on the projection to pass the PlayStation 2 in terms of sales numbers, we want to be able to beat ourselves. They're basically chasing themselves now in terms of that number. And the way you can get that number is by raising the cost, by raising that price. If you drop it
Yeah.
and make this thing widely available to everyone, sure, you'll hit that number, but you got to make that money up somewhere else, especially in this global market. And as we're going to talk about here in, I swear, just a hot second, I know we're kind of dancing around here, making that money up in the development of the games. But
Yeah.
that game does not, the money from the game does not necessarily all go back to Nintendo. It goes back to the developers and people who created and
Yes.
published the game as well.
Yeah. But you're not wrong because they had mentioned pretty early in the Switch 2 like process that they were trying to ramp up production and make sure that there were no shortages, that they wanted to meet demand as best as possible. I mean, when pre-orders hit on the 9th, by the way, which is when pre-orders hit, we will see how well that works. So Nintendo, I should mention real quick before I move on. Nintendo is doing pre-orders themselves, kind of like how Sony did with the
Mhm.
PlayStation. What was that called? Direct. PlayStation. I forget what it was. But
The
anyways,
Treehouse, the State of Plays,
no,
the
not the,
Direct.
the website that you went on to get a PS5. Remember
Oh
that thing?
yeah, yes.
Nintendo's doing an equivalent of that, but you have to basically qualify in order to get an invite. And how you qualify is you have to be a Nintendo Online member at least for 12 months, like a whole year at some point. Not recently, but at some point. And then you have to have over like 50 hours of gameplay on like logged on your Switch.
So for me, who hasn't touched my Switch within probably the past 3 years, has at one point had a 12
Yeah,
hour account for the online play.
12
And
year,
I know
12,
I've
12
sunk
or
at
12
least 50
month.
hours into a Pokemon game at some point.
Yeah, I think we're both qualified, but whether or not we get invites is another. You have to also
Yes,
go to a website and say, I opt in for them to send you something.
right.
And then, of course, there will be the traditional mad dash at GameStop and all your other retailers and stuff trying to not get 404 errored as you try to make a pre-order. So try that
Yes.
too. Go for it. I'm not gonna bother. I
I'm going to try because that box will
played
look
that
nicely
rodeo.
right down here next to my other collectible boxes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but like I'm not even gonna bother with that. If Nintendo sends me an invite, sure. But besides that, I am not doing what I did with the PS5 again. I never doing that again. Like, something broke inside me in 2020. Anyways, and it wasn't just
Something broke
COVID.
inside a lot of people in 2020.
Anyways, yes, let's move on and talk about the games, shall we?
Yes, because while the console itself is im- impressive from a Switch to a Switch 2 upgrade, we still need to talk about game one or day one launches for these games, especially first party games, because what is Nintendo without Mario?
Yeah.
And what is Mario without a world to run around in?
Yeah.
And this world, he's not running around three. Well, it is 3D world, but he's not running around in this world. No, he's scooting and blitzing and moving and braking and driving his way all around Mario Kart World, the new
Yes.
open world adventure which connects the racetracks and creates a new free roam experience to the traditional Mario Kart games.
Yeah.
We also got an upgrade in drivers to 24 drivers allowed on a race and two new modes, the knockout mode, in addition to the revamped cup mode.
Yes.
And then also, like I mentioned, there's a free roam mode now where you can just
Mhm.
drive anywhere
Yeah,
as long
basically
as you have it
Nintendo,
unlocked.
yeah, basically Nintendo decided all of their games are Breath of the Wild now. And yeah, they Breath of the Wildized Mario Kart. It seems to be like kind of an open world, like Burnout Paradise kind of situation, where you are going from race to race by literally driving there,
Mhm.
including, as you mentioned, in the Grand Prix mode, where you will be racing to the races in between levels, which is neat, which is a neat idea, and I think it'll be cool to do. And yeah, the free roam mode can also be multiplayer. They showed off like there's a photo mode, and you can take pictures of your squad on your carts. And apparently, in that open world, there's a lot of secrets to explore. So it sounds like a really neat package that where there's a lot to do. A lot of new bonus characters. I mentioned the cow from Moo Moo Farm
Yes.
is playable for some reason. I don't know. So yeah, it seems like they're pulling out all the stops. This is the Mario Kart end all Mario Karts, and it's $80.
Oh,
Yeah,
there it is.
not 60, not 70. They jumped over 70. They went from 60, they tried 70 with Tears of the Kingdom, and we're like, you know what? Not good enough. Let's
You
go
know
to
what? People
80.
don't like that we've charged $70 for our
Yeah.
game. So we're going to charge 80 in your face. Didn't see that coming.
So it does seem to be just like the Tears of the Kingdom decision, based game by game.
Mhm.
Mario Kart World is an $80 title. Meanwhile, some of the games we will talk about later are $70 titles. And
No, no, no. Mario
some,
Kart is a $50 title if you buy
but
it
if you
bundled.
get it bundled. And then some games are like $5. So all bets are off. You will have to determine game by game how much you're willing to pay.
Yeah, but I think they know that people will pay for Mario Kart
Oh,
because it is a
obviously.
party game. It is a well-known institution of any Nintendo console. And
Mhm.
because the Switch comes with two controllers, thanks to the Joy-Cons, you can immediately start playing in two-player
Yes.
mode, couch co-op, right away with the bundle. It's a positive sales tactic here.
For Nintendo, yes.
Yes, not for my wallet. No. Or my card. I don't know. What am I using to pay things now? With blood,
Something
arms,
like that. Yeah,
legs,
arms, legs,
limbs,
yeah.
kidneys.
Anyway.
But anyways, yeah, that wasn't the only first party game announced. In fact, it wasn't the only Mario game announced. Because like I mentioned, Mario Party Jamboree plus Bowser TV will be hitting the Switch 2. And you can buy an upgrade from Mario Party Jamboree from the Switch into the Switch 2. I did not see any price point on this upgraded version, though. I want to
So,
say $10.
what I heard about the upgrades is that most of the upgrades are going to be, if you're buying them for the first time, $80. The
Hmm.
base $60, and then the $20 presumably for the expansion content, which suggests that by themselves, the expansions, the basically the upgrade packs for people who own the Switch versions, will be between $10 and $20. I would bet 20.
All right. Other Switch 2 upgrades or Switch ports, I guess,
Editions. So, okay, here,
additions.
this is important. You have to use the terminology because that is a different thing that you just said. There are
Yes.
basically three kinds of games on the Switch 2. This is the way they broke it down on the thing. There are Switch 2 native games,
Yes.
like Mario Kart World. There are Switch 2 editions, which are Switch games that are given full up visual upgrades and include additional content. And then there is a Switch game running on a Nintendo Switch 2, which does not have additional content and base and has minor upgrades, I think, visuals and frame rate.
Right.
So
So,
we have to be clear. Switch 2 Edition is the name of these products.
right. The additions of these games include both Zelda games, the
Yep.
Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom,
Yep.
the upcoming Metroid 4 Prime game,
Metroid Prime
Prime
for
Beyond,
Beyond.
uh, Arceus, Pokemon Legends ZA,
ZA, the to be released Legends game,
yes, the upcoming game, and Kirby,
The Forgotten Land.
the Forgotten Land, with Big Mouth mode.
Yes, yes. So
Uh,
those
that
are the
will
game.
they will have new additional features as well as like with Kirby, new additional content.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is also getting additional content too, from what I saw,
Yes, Tears of the
like a
Kingdom will get
prologue.
new
Prologue.
content and will also have an app that will be compatible with it,
Mhm.
exclusive to the Switch 2 edition. Um, this is just what we know so far. There may be more Nintendo Switch 2 editions in the future. A lot of people said, "Hey, where's Scarlet and Violet?" Well, we'll see.
Mhm.
And yeah, like you already mentioned Mario Party, but yeah, it seems like they're basically adding compatibility with the new peripherals and the new like it's not just new content in some cases. Like with Mario Party, there'll also be mini games that use the mouse control as well
Mhm.
as the camera control. And so yeah, they're like doing little bits and pieces like that in these games as well to take advantage of the actual hardware on top of the actual like the improvement in power.
Yep. They also announced that GameCube games would be coming to Nintendo Switch Online, even some exclusive to the Switch 2, like Wind Waker, Zelda, F-Zero, GX, and Soul Calibur 2, with
Mhm.
more to come.
I want to note not some are exclusive. All GameCube games are exclusive to Switch 2. The GameCube expansion for
Ooh.
the expansion pack will not be available on the original Switch.
Okay, I read that wrong then, or I
Yes,
heard that
you
wrong in this.
yeah, that they had to clarify because yeah, people were confused. But yes, if you have Nintendo Online expansion, you can't go and get GameCube games yet. You have to have a Switch 2 to have access to them. And yeah, and they showed a bunch of like a preview of a bunch of other GameCube games that will be eventually coming, including both Pokemon Colosseum games,
Mhm.
Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness, which a lot of people have been wanting to play again. Not me. I didn't like them at the time. Um, and yeah, and like a handful of other cool GameCube releases. I think the funny one here is Soul Calibur 2, because this means you can finally play the version that lets you play as Link again.
Oh no, I want the one that lets you play as Kratos. Come on, or Darth
Yeah, well,
Vader. Was that four? I think that was four.
4 had Darth Vader in
Yeah, yeah, because they also had like the Yoda one, like Yoda and Darth Vader in it too, and the Kale, Cole from Force Unleashed. They were
Yeah.
all in there. But we need to go back to some original first party games as well, including a brand new Donkey Kong game. And
Yes.
not the one you're thinking of. This is a new 3D platform action game called Donkey Kong Bonanza with destruction digging mechanics.
Yes. Yeah, it looks
Uh,
kind of like so yeah, you're Donkey Kong and it's a 3D platformer, but basically all the face buttons except for jump wreck shit up. And that's any direction. So you're either
yep.
punching people like crazy, you're digging underground, you're taking down mountains and hills in front of you. Like it is basically like it reminded me of like Hulk Ultimate Destruction or like Prototype, where you're just like taking shit down and that's the game mechanic. So it was cool kind of to see a Donkey Kong game built around like a unique mechanic like that.
Maybe it's just me, but the Donkey Kong model looked very similar to Banjo-Kazooie.
It is a completely redesigned Donkey Kong. And it's ironic that you say that because this is the first time they're moving away from the rare Donkey Kong design from
Hmm.
Donkey Kong Country in almost in over 30 years. That was 1994, Donkey Kong Country 1, and they've used
Yep.
that Donkey Kong in all of their games ever since. We finally have a new Donkey Kong that kind of borrows from both the original Nintendo Donkey Kong and the rare Donkey Kong, kind of comes with the platonic ideal of Donkey Kong. I kind of like him. I like how he's like cartoonish, like a little bit more cartoonish and fun.
Well, you can get that game a month after the Switch launches on July 17th for $70, and not that 80 that Mario Kart World spitted.
Yeah, I don't know what they're making the distinction here on maybe because it's a single player experience, but who knows?
Yeah. We also got the announcement of, okay, I'm gonna let you read these three words because I think you'll get the more excitement than I can.
Okay. What?
Uh,
Oh, you've been skipping around. I didn't know where you were.
yeah, sorry.
Kirby Air Riders. After
Yeah, I would not have gotten there.
after 20 years, we finally get a sequel to Kirby Air Ride, the GameCube game, which I love dearly. It was one of my favorite GameCube games. It's not a good game, but I love it. And not none other than Kirby creator and Super Smash Brothers head honcho Sakurai is back, and he's heading up the development of this game. I don't think you can do Kirby Air Ride without him, so this is a miracle, honestly, for me. That game, if you go back to Kirby Air Ride, that is such a proto there's so many ideas in that game that he later uses in the Super Smash Brothers games. You know, in Ultimate, how there's like the grid of like achievements.
Hmm.
That was Kirby Air Ride first in 2003. He had that idea way back before Xbox even had achievements. Like that's how cool this, like that's how forward thinking this guy has always been. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to. All we saw was a teaser. We don't know what this game actually is. I presume it will be like Kirby Air Ride 1 was, which will be kind of actually not too dissimilar to what Mario Kart World is now. A racing game that also has an open world mechanic. There was this mode called City Drive. I think City Trial that was kind of in like an open world setting and there was a multiplayer kind of way thing. So I would imagine something like that comes back here too. So yeah, I'm excited.
Well, I'm glad you're excited about it. And again, you're excited for any Kirby stuff that comes out.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. But we did get a new look at a new first party game coming to the Switch 2 exclusively.
Yep.
It's called Drag and Drive, and it's a wheelchair basketball game where you can
Yes.
use both mouse controls.
Yeah, exactly. You're kind of moving them back and forth to move your guy as you would if you were using a wheelchair in real life. And then to like throw the basketball, you're doing kind of flicks with your wrist as if you're throwing a basketball. They showed some cool mechanics like jumping over the hoop and doing a slam dunk downwards. It seems like this is basically the Switch 2's arms. This is like their like big game that is going to show off the features of the motion controls. And I think it's smart. I also think it's interesting to have a motion control game that you should be sitting for.
Hmm.
That's a relatively new idea for Nintendo. Is typically like stand up for like Wii Sports and everything. This they were even having people at the in-person event that they had. They were even having people try using the mouse controls on their pants in lieu of a surface. Basically saying you don't even have to have a table in front of you to play this. Just move it across your lap and it should work. So it's a neat idea.
Yeah, I learned how you do that. Like it's most games, like where you either stand up or sit down or on a couch, and
Right.
like 3 feet from a table, you have to be leaning over,
Yeah.
running on it. But yeah, if you use it for your pants or the couch or
Yeah.
whatever,
They have a
armchair.
lot of trust in their sensor, their like IR or laser or whatever they're doing
Hmm.
for the mouse sensor. They must know that it's really sensitive because otherwise that wouldn't work.
Yep. Yeah. So
Yeah.
cool. I mean, it looks cool. It looks interesting.
Looks fun.
Looks fun. Yeah. Uh, and lastly, here, if you wanted your own deep dive into the system, well, not going to come with the system. You have to pay up for Nintendo Switch 2, Welcome Tour, which is an interactive tour through the system's features and will include some mini games. But you got to pay it. It's not going to be included in the system itself.
Yeah.
Ain't no Astrobot Playroom here.
Right, exactly. It's unfortunately this is basically what should be built into the system, kind of introduce you to the mechanics.
Mhm.
But of course they're making you pay for it. Um That being said, it looks like a neat idea. It looks like a very interactive way of finding out all the new features. Um, and the mini games look cool. Like those looks like a lot of fun stuff with the mouse. A report from the in-person event said that there's like Super Mario Brothers in there that like is the first time Super Mario Brothers, the video game, has ever been rendered in 4K, which is kind of wild.
Mhm.
You'd like if you want a copy of a 4K Mario Kart, I guess pay $5 to $10 or whatever they're going to charge for this thing. Yeah, we don't know the US pricing for this yet. Apparently, the Japanese pricing is out and it roughly amounted to $6 and something. So that's why I put that $5 to 10
Yeah,
range
okay.
because that's probably where it'll end up.
Well, this is a digital only game,
Yeah.
so yeah, online. So, in addition to the system, in addition to all those first party games, we also had some notable third party games, and not games I was kind of expecting coming to the Switch.
No, all the rumors we had heard turned out to be wrong. We had heard that Microsoft was going to be in full effect here. We saw no Microsoft published games.
Hmm.
But we did get a lot of ports from companies you wouldn't necessarily think that would show up to a Nintendo stage, like 2K and EA.
Yeah, so let's go through the list here. We've got Elden Ring, Tarnished Edition, uh, from Soft, but
Yep.
also the announcement of a new IP to the
Yes.
Switch exclusive, Switch 2 exclusive, which is called the Dusk Bloods.
Yes, and
Vampire-esque, I want to say.
yes, this kind of also had a roller coaster of an experience for people on the internet yesterday. It initially, based on its trailer, looks kind of like a spiritual sequel to Bloodborne, a From Software game that they don't own the IP for. Sony owns it. And so people for a second were very excited. It's like, oh shit, a Bloodborne 2 equivalent, but it's a Switch 2 exclusive. Well, temper your expectations because later they confirmed that this is similar to that Elden Ring expansion that came
Mhm.
out this year or is coming out this year. It is multiplayer focused. The Duskborns is the Duskbloods, sorry. See what I did there?
Yes.
Is a multiplayer kind of not extraction game, but like kind of like a cooperative game, like versus environment game that used to be all the rage back
Oh,
when like
PvE.
yeah, kind of like that, but it's a co-op PvE experience.
Okay.
So that's what this is. And so a lot of people are a little disappointed finding out that this isn't just a Soulsborne game, but it may have some elements of that kind of game in it.
All right. Also, new game coming to the Switch 2 is an IO Interactive's 007 project.
Yeah, we knew about this. We knew that
Yes.
IO had the 007 license, but this is the first time we've even seen a teaser for it. Still no actual gameplay. We don't know what this game looks like or plays like, but we know it's coming to Switch 2.
Yep. And we also got a bunch of, well, okay, a couple of smaller studio games
Yep.
include Deltarune, chapters 1 through 4,
Yep.
and Hades 2
Yes.
coming.
Note about Hades 2. Supergiant said that the Switch 2 and Switch 1 console versions of Hades 2 will actually be out before Xbox and PlayStation. They will be console exclusive for a hot second before
Hmm.
they come to Xbox and PlayStation platforms. Of course, there will also be the PC version.
Yes. Now, a bunch of games that I didn't expect to be announced, but here we are because these are some AAA titles,
Yeah.
including Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment.
This is a sequel to Hyrule Warriors that was a Switch 1 game and is a prequel story-wise to Tears of the Kingdom.
Yep. Cyberpunk 2077: Ultimate Edition, so you get all that
Sure.
extra DLC.
Of course, I didn't get to see this on the stream because the stream was frozen for everybody during this trailer. So I have no idea what they showed out of Cyberpunk or Final Fantasy, which is the next game you're going to talk about.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 7 Remake: Integrate
Yeah.
coming out. We also have Street Fighter 6
Yep.
Split Fiction, which literally just came
Just came
out.
out.
uh, EA Sports FC, the football club, as well as the other football club, Madden.
This will notably be the first Madden game on a Nintendo platform in 13 years.
And I wonder if they'll have motion controls to flick a pass.
Maybe.
We also have from 2K, NBA 2K, as well as WWE 2K. The upcoming Civ 7 game will also
Uh,
get a Switch 2
well,
release.
it's out, but the Switch 2 version is upcoming.
Yes, it will get up. We also have Bravely Default Remastered.
Yes, that was a
Uh,
DS game that is getting remastered.
the upcoming Borderlands 4 game, as well as the upcoming Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4
Which I
games.
guess technically is the only Microsoft game on this list. So just remember that is technically that does qualify.
We also have Yakuza 0, Hitman, and presumably all the Hitman series coming,
Yes, the
as
entire
well
world of
as
assassination.
Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah, so this is kind of a good like smorgasbord of AAA publishers, like you said. It's everybody is here. EA, 2K, and
Mhm.
Ubisoft are all represented here, as well as, like you said, some smaller indie studios, which is good to see.
Yep, and yeah, your typical like Capcom's in here, and your Square Enix in here as well. So lots of games coming to the Switch, and all of these are presumably, I think, within the first year, outside of
I
like
would
the Dust
imagine,
Bloods game.
considering that a lot of these are ports, they probably will be, if not launch games, within that launch window, as they used to say.
Yeah. It also makes me kind of curious. So, like, all this new information from the third parties makes me really interested in the type of user interface that the Switch 2 is going to have. If all these games will port really easily, because it seems like it,
Mhm.
because even like Split Fiction, which literally just came out, like I keep saying, like,
Yeah.
that's getting a port right to the Switch 2 immediately.
I mean, it makes sense. Oh, the one thing that Split Fiction reminded me of that we didn't talk about is the Switch 2 now also has the ability to basically game share. Oh, we talked about this last week, didn't we?
Yeah,
No.
Game
No, we
Share was
didn't.
part of the
That stuff.
Nintendo Direct last time.
Right, but what we didn't talk about yet is that the multiplayer basically is now automatic.
Mhm.
It doesn't work like it used to work. Basically, they took the idea that Joseph Ferris's games like Split Fiction have been doing, where you only have to have one copy, and now
Mhm.
it's just standard for Nintendo games, presumably going forward. You'll be able to play like certain games with like by just having your Switch near other people, which is smart. But yeah.
So does something like that help with the blowback of $80 if four friends can go in at $20
You
each?
can say because it depends on the game is compatible with that. It would be really funny if they make Mario Kart not compatible with that mode. Or if there's like one mode, like they did in Mario Kart DS, there's like one mode that you can do with share play, and it's super simplified. You all have to be like shy guys, and you can play one level. That was real.
Yes.
Anyways,
Anyways,
but that's
that
it. We did it.
yeah, that's the Switch 2. Like we said, it comes out June 5th to the tune of roughly $500.
Yeah, we'll have more information soon. They said that there will be a Mario Kart World specific direct coming on the 17th of
Mhm.
April. So we'll have more news about that game very soon.
So June 5th is a Thursday. We will be recording, I assume, during that
No, we
time
won't.
on a
I will
Thursday.
be in Austin, Texas.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think I told you this last week that just so happens to be the week I'm taking my vacation. So I will not be on the podcast on Switch 2 launch day.
So you could
Um,
look forward to me gawking over a Switch 2 on the other side here.
yeah, maybe. So
I don't
I
know.
don't know when
I'm
I'm gonna
not
get mine. I don't know.
yeah, that's the thing. Like I'm not of everything that they announced here, for me specifically, nothing is making me jump out, have to have it day one.
Except for Mario Kart. Honestly, I think Mario Kart's the killer
Yeah,
app. They're smart to bundle it with the system.
Yeah, but Mario Kart you're gonna get no matter what, because people associate, like I said at the top here, with the Nintendo consoles
Yeah.
with a Mario Kart game. And because it's a family game and easy to multiplayer, it's smart to bundle it up.
Yes, it is. All right. Let's stop talking about the Switch 2. Did we play anything? Just real briefly.
Um, I've been playing Digimon Cyber Sleuth, the 2018 game, because it became free to play on PlayStation.
Got it. Okay. Good for you.
Other than that, no, I'm not.
Yeah, I was gonna try out Atom Fall and Game Pass, didn't get time. So yeah, I have not played anything new.
All right, then. Let's then go over into
Music.
music. And we start music with the Billboard. And we start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And the hottest song in the land is still Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA.
Yep.
At coming in at two, Die with a Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. At 3, a bar song, Tipsy by Shabuzi. Coming in at 4, Just in Case by Morgan Wallen, who
Yeah,
we'll talk about in a
we will
hot
talk about
second
him
here.
today.
And right at your top 5, Pink Pony Club by Chapel Roan.
Yeah, good to see Pink Pony Club crack the top five.
Yeah, that PPC coming in hot. Yeah, as for your albums chart, your Billboard 200, at number 1 is Music by Playboy Cardi. That does mean that number 2, it's I Said I Love You First by
Hmm.
Selena Gomez and hubby Benny Blanco.
To be. They're just fiancés so far.
Okay, fiance Beyonce, Benny Blanco. At 3, GNX by Kendrick Lamar. Coming in at 4, Some Sexy Songs for You by Drake and Party Next Door. And rounding out your top 5, SOS by SZA.
Yep.
If you don't like any of those albums, we have new releases, starting with Forever How Long by Black Country, New Road. We also have Who Believes in Angels by the upcoming special of Elton John and Brandy Carlisle,
Yep.
who will be having a special on CBS. I want to say it's either this week or next week.
It's soon. Also, aren't they doing SNL or something? I
They
forget.
are doing
Yeah.
SNL this upcoming weekend.
So just get ready for a lot of Elton John and Brandy Carlisle.
Right, the I'm gonna retire Elton John.
Yes, exactly.
We also have Jelly Wish by Florist, Leopard Skin by LA Guns, Dog God by LA Witch, not to be
Yeah,
confused,
LA Guns and LA Witch this week.
Horror by Mekons, Welcome to My Blue Sky by Mama, or is it Mama?
Open to
We
interpretation.
also up to interpretation is Death Hilarious by Pigs, 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 Pig, Pigs, Pig, Pigs.
Yep, there's seven of them. I had to keep that in mind when I was typing it. I was like, how many pigs? And I was like, okay, there's seven pigs. Pigs, 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 pigs. Pigs, pigs, pigs.
Yep. Which, if you have 7 little piggies, please consult your doctor.
Yeah.
We also have Bunky Becky Birthday Boy by one of your favorites, me my favorite here, Sleigh Bells.
I mean, let's be that's generous. I don't know if I've loved their last like three or four records, but yeah, I like that first one.
There's also Spring Grove by the Ophelias. And lastly, Life, Death, and Dennis Hopper
Sure.
by the Water Boys. Not that Water Boy. This ain't no Adam
No.
Sandler project. It is the Water Boys. All right. Normally, we don't like talking about Morgan Wallen
Yeah.
for a plethora
Pardon me.
of uh, stuff that he's done all throughout his career. Most notably, back in 2020, when he was asked to perform on SNL, that he was seen the week of out partying in a bar in Tennessee, in which he was quickly removed from the lineup for SNL. And I want to say that is probably where our disdain for Morgan Wallen kind of originates.
Well, it's a combination of that and the event where he said a racial slur.
Well,
Um,
I'm just saying he continues to put his a boot in his mouth and chairs
yes.
overboard and being arrested in whatever state he's in.
Yeah,
You know, just doing regular stuff in God's country, being a
you know,
general havoc. Also, General Havoc,
they're
great
havoc.
name. So it makes you wonder why Morgan Wallen was asked to come back to SNL this past year. Sorry, not this past year, this past week.
Yeah.
Because, he's got a new album to promote. And Lauren Michaels like it or not, likes to add a little controversy and get the people talking about SNL every now and then.
Yeah.
Even though, they just had their 50th anniversary, which everyone was talking about SNL. So Keenan Thompson told Entertainment Weekly that, yep, definitely saw it. When Morgan Wallen himself, I'm sorry, I put too much emphasis in his name. When Morgan Wallen himself walked off the SNL stage during the end of the show, when host and musical guests typically stay to hug and show appreciation to the show's cast as the end credits play on screen, as they've done so for the past 50 years. Wallen, who performed two songs on SNL's March 29th episode, which was hosted by Mickey Madison,
Mikey.
uh, Mikey Madison, there's no C in there, by Mikey Madison, was on stage at the very end.
Yep.
Um, to which point he then literally walked past the camera as the red light was on, indicating the camera was hot, and strolled right through the audience out the back doors.
Yeah.
Keenan Thompson said, quote, I don't know what goes through people's minds when they decide to do stuff like that. I don't know if he understood the assignment or not, or if he was really feeling a certain kind of way. End quote. So, shortly after exiting SNL, Morgan Wallen decided to post on his Instagram story on his way to his private jet that read, quote, get me to God's country, end quote. Which I believe, no, he didn't write God's country. Hardy wrote God's country. So he's not even quoting his own song in this thing. Because Hardy wrote God's country and then gave it to Blake Shelton to perform, and then it became a big hit. So why is he quoting this song, which is not even his own song?
I
But
don't know.
yeah, anyways, this post fueled rumors that Morgan Wallen allegedly hating SNL. And shortly after he made this post, he is currently, I believe, as of this recording, selling hats and t-shirts on his official website with that quote, get me to God's country on them.
Yeah. I mean, it's just embarrassing in a way. And also, it just plays into this tired ancient narrative of this, like, this like culture war, situation.
You mean the victim blaming
Yeah, there's an
or
element of
victim
that.
fetish or whatever
Yeah, like
going on?
victimization kind of going
Yes.
on. Like, I'm sure that the SNL staff and cast and everybody treated Morgan Wallen fine. I'm sure they do that with everybody. It's literally their job when they have musical guests and hosts on to like coddle them and make sure that they're comfortable. There's nothing I could possibly imagine that would have happened during that week or however often Morgan Wallen deigned to show up to practice, um, that would have made him feel uncomfortable. This has to be a move that he's making to prove some sort of weird point about how he's like hates New York City or doesn't like SNL or doesn't like the cast. But he knows like he can't. Okay, I was gonna say
Are you gonna give too much credit
he's
here?
not an idiot, but then I was like, well, the proof doesn't
I
necessarily
could
back
give
his
you
claim up.
examples that say otherwise.
Yeah. And so this just gives this like further amplifies this image of this guy as a guy who does not think before he does things. But then the kicker, of course, I included the stuff about the merch because the kicker is that regardless of whether he intended on doing this, his team is smart, maybe smarter than he is, and decided, well, we can capitalize on this culture war moment and sell these t-shirts to take advantage of this and sell it to people who are also are like, oh, I hate SNL. I don't know why he was even there, and like, New York City is gross and stuff like that. It like just plays into this old ass narrative about these things being diametrically opposed. Country music does not necessarily have to be such boring conservative like this idea that they're in opposition of like a big city like New York City. It's like, oh, the city country dynamic. That's not a thing anymore. Country music happens everywhere, and musicians can be extremely conservative, but they can also be extremely liberal now. Like the genre is just a genre of music. We don't have to divide it into sides. It doesn't have to be part of the culture war. And all Morgan Wallen is doing is playing into that traditionalism, is playing into that like assumption, like, oh, well, if you're gonna like if you're a real country artist, you stand for the flag and you support the president and all this stuff. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily true anymore. And like the guy just seems like he's standing for something that doesn't exist anymore. And this was such a weird, embarrassing, and disrespectful move that just makes every time I swear he's trying to like rehabilitate his image, he does something like this. He has an album coming out. Now there's probably going to be at least a portion of people who pay attention to this stuff that's going to be like, well, that was kind of rude. Does it to
Right.
himself.
Especially because people who go and show up and either host or perform on SNL are invited to
Yeah,
show up
right.
to host or perform on SNL. It's not an obligation. You can say no. You can
Yeah.
deny the request.
If he didn't
So to
want to be
say
there, he
that,
shouldn't have been there. Exactly. Is
yeah,
it the
and
label that made him? Like, who knows? But it's weird.
well, there's also talk about him not wanting to play ball with SNL sketches. There was
Sure.
the pre-tape that was showed, as well as a sketch. I don't know if it was a sketch in the middle of it, but there's a pre-tape where it should have been Morgan Wallen, the musical guest, showing up in it, but
Uh,
instead they had to quickly pivot to
because he
Joe
didn't want to do it.
Jonas showing up and being a part of the
Oh,
sketch
okay.
or the pre-tape, like out of nowhere.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. It seems like it's a weird move for him to make. But if he really does think that he wants to play to his base, real quick, I had a conversation with Christy earlier on our lunch break, and she asked me, like, I don't get it. Like, if he keeps doing stuff like this, why do people still buy his albums in droves? Why is he still so successful? And I told her, here's the thing, is the average Morgan Wallen fan probably doesn't know anything about his personal goings on. They probably don't even know that he's on SNL last week. They listen to country music, they hear a Morgan Wallen song, and they're like, I like that, and they stream it. End of experience with Morgan Wallen.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can dive deep. We could dive deeper into this where it's
Yeah.
separating the art from the artist. And we've had talks about that on this
Yeah.
podcast before
But we
here.
simply don't have time. Also, I don't think his music is very good. Like, so even if we did go down that road, I think it's a dead end because I don't want to hear last night I went to the liquor store ever again in my life because it sounds terrible. His voice sounds bad. I'm sorry. Morgan Wallen is a bad guy, and he's also a bad singer.
Well, I'm just waiting for the top five to show up with I'm the Problem by Morgan Wallen. I'm gonna be like, yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are. Anyways,
Anyways, foreshadowing for next week when it probably shows up in the top five.
probably. But yeah,
But an
I love
album that
to.
will go ahead. Here's your
I
last
was just
thought.
gonna say, I love that we have a canonical media boat villain over the last few years.
Yeah,
It feels good.
yeah. Feels good to have someone to point to. Just like Selena Gomez has someone to point to, hopefully in the bed next to her, Benny Blanco. And
Yes.
so you listened to their album, and can
Yeah.
you definitively say which one of them said "I love you" first?
It was Selena. She admitted in an interview that it was her that said, I love you first to Benny Blanco. But none of that matters. I'll be really brief on this. This is a Selena Gomez record, straight up. Benny Blanco, as you may know, is producer first and foremost. He had a rap history, but that's really been erased. He mostly is just a producer. He unfortunately um, learned the trade under Dr. Luke. has since, of course, abandoned Dr. Luke and says he has no associations with him. This has been the case for about 10 years now. But he comes from that school of pop music production. And for a while, he had hands in all sorts of hits, including Kesha's TikTok, which is fun. But generally speaking, over the last handful of years, he's really just focused on a few artists, and one of them has been Selena Gomez. Benny Blanco produced both her Revival and Rare albums, her last two studio albums under the Selena Gomez name. And this largely follows in those albums' footsteps, with a couple of exceptions. So while the name might imply that you're going to hear Benny Blanco, you're not. This is a Selena Gomez record that's just produced by him. But there's a lot of other producers here. There's a lot of other writers here. So just go in and expecting a Selena Gomez record because that's basically what this thing actually is.
All right. So it's not like Some Sexy Songs for You by Party
No,
Next Door
it's not.
and Drake.
It's also not really, contrary to what the album makes you believe it is, it's not really a romantic love album either. A lot of the songs actually are about Selena basically like, saying screw you to an ex. Um, it's not necessarily like a, ooh, we're so cute together kind of album. That's not what this is.
Oh, it's no
So the
golden hour.
yeah, so the album art and the name are kind of misleading in that way. So I just wanted to mention that on the podcast so that people know what they're getting into if they're listening to it. I thought it was fine. I thought it was an okay pop record. I didn't like it as much as Rare. So if you like Selena Gomez, maybe revisit her earlier stuff. And there's a lot of very weird choices on here. There's a song with a one of the worst pre-choruses I've heard since Carly Rae Jepsen's Beach House. Which, if you're saying what, don't look it up. Um, it's really lame. I forget the name of the song, but basically it's a pun about Benny Blanco's let's just say genitalia that does not work. But yeah, it's fine. It's a fine pop record, but it's not that special and it's not that unique and it's not a required listen kind of experience. It's okay.
All right. So just
Yeah,
fine.
it's fine.
All right. Okay. Well, then let's move on into television because I did not listen to
Yes.
another album. Probably
Alrighty.
get on that. And we'll start with the sports corner.
Yes.
All right. NFL Draft Day. We are in the month of Draft Day. It is April 26th, 4 weeks away. Wait, that's not right. April 26th is wrong. April 24th. That's wrong. It is 4 weeks away. End of the
Okay.
month. But this past week, the NFL owners and head coaches all met and announced some key changes for the 2025 season. Unfortunately, unless you're in Philadelphia, the tush push ban was not brought to a vote, which means tush push will still be legal in this upcoming season.
Good. Don't ban the tush push, you cowards.
It's just be better at it.
Yeah,
But there was a
come up with the
new
defense for it. If you don't like it, come up with the defense for it. This is football. Come on. Anyway,
anyways, the new kickoff, uh, which was implemented last year, will officially be permanent going forward. If uh, I think it's fine. I think people were overreacting. Well, they're properly reacting and overreacting because it is a front to create something new. But
sure.
having a year in it, having a year seen it, I think it works fine. I think it gets the job done. It's going to be a little weird watching older games compared to the
Sure. Yeah.
newer games, especially
Yeah.
with the kickoff, especially when the Super Bowl kickoff. It's nice to have those pictures of everyone running in the same direction, all the cameras flashing as the kickoff into
Yeah.
the Super Bowl. Won't have that anymore, but I think it's just very ceremonial, anyways. Just like the NBA tip off and the puck drop for NHL.
Right.
It's very ceremonial. Doesn't really mean like, oh, if you win the face-off, you're gonna win the game. If you win the
Yeah. No.
tip-off, you're more likely to win. No, it doesn't do any of that
Right.
because you're still playing a full 60 minutes of a football game. It's not gonna be decided on a kickoff or one play or another.
Yeah, especially since the kickoff doesn't determine possession. It just is how possession happens.
Right.
Right. The coin flip
Um,
determines possession.
yes. So you gotta get your heads and tails in order. And lastly, implemented starting in this upcoming year, the first down marker will not be implemented by the chain gang. It will
Oh,
be done electronically using the Hawkeye virtual measurement system to
okay.
determine if a first down was gained or not.
Wow. RIP the chains.
The chains will still be up there. You'll still have the chain gang out there,
Yeah.
but they will then go to a video replay and an actual um computerized version of the game because cameras and motions all around to determine
Mhm.
if a first down was made or not and where to spot the ball if it becomes close. Otherwise, the chain gang will be ceremonious as to see on the sidelines and to just to not get rid of it in general. But
Okay.
they're there. They're just not the official keepers of what is a first down anymore.
Right. Okay.
And we'll see that in this upcoming year. But before we get to there, we got to talk about the damn Yankees.
Yeah.
In the first three games of the season, they managed to hit a staggering, blistering, torpedoing 15 home runs, including 9 home runs in a single game, which ties a franchise record and 1 home run shy of the MLB record. And they say it's all thanks to getting a good night's sleep, eating your spinach, eating your greens, um, praying to the baseball gods that you have all the right done, all the right stamina and training, and oh yeah, the creation of a brand new torpedo bat,
Yes. Yes. I've heard so much about the torpedo bet this week.
the fat bat in the middle.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's legal.
So technically, it's legal
Yeah.
for now.
Yeah, for now.
Um, you still got to hit the damn ball. One,
Right.
still got to make
That's the hard
contact
part.
to it. So I've heard. But the way the bat is manufactured, it still meets the technical length and weight and specs of a
Mhm.
major league bat. It's just that the way it's conformed is that the more meatier part of the bat, the center, where you're gonna most likely hit the ball, has a lot more wood in it compared to the very ends of it. So it gets a little bigger in the middle there.
Yeah. I watched a lot of different games from and different telecasts this week, and on almost every single one of it, there was at least one time where it was mentioned and players said and that there were players on whatever team that was that were intending on getting some. So this will start proliferating through the league
Mhm.
as the weeks go on.
So naturally, the Yankees are out to a blistering pace in the home run game. We'll
Yeah.
see what teams show up to beat them.
Yeah.
But that being said, they are not undefeated.
No,
That
because it's baseball.
distinction, that distinction with 1 week into the season goes to your two California teams, the
Yes.
Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, the Dodgers especially impressive considering this is apparently the first time a championship team has gone 8-0 in the following season. So, like consecutively. So, yeah, the Dodgers could keep that trend going and they could set even more records.
Yeah, typically when championships teams come out, and they usually have a slump the first couple of
Mhm.
weeks, just get back in the groove of things. But nope, not for the Dodgers here.
Yep.
Must be something in the water, or in the housing, or in
The
the
LA
city,
Basin.
or whatever. Baseball, in the diamond, in the
Yeah.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
But with every undefeated team, there has to be a winless team. And that
Yes.
distinction goes to the Atlanta Braves, who, if you remember,
Yes.
just a few years ago were in the World Series contention.
And it looks like that they will have a hard uphill battle to get wins even more so going forward, as not one, but two of their star players are out. One, for reasons that, well, he shouldn't be proud of. Yes, Jurickson Profar was found with illegal substances and has been given a 3-month kick out of the league. So we will not see Profar for a while. So yeah,
Not
the
till
Braves are
after the
losing.
All-Star break.
Yeah, so the Braves lost a couple of key pieces, which means that, yeah, they're going to have quite a rough season, kind of no matter what happens.
Yeah, maybe they could chop together a couple wins.
Yeah, like them and I mean, like the Rockies and the Brewers all kind of look pretty rough and beaten up right now. But
Yep.
that's
But
baseball.
no division has been beat up more than the AL Central, where the top team has
Yes.
a 33% win percentage.
Yes, it's crazy.
Yes, it's still early.
Yeah, it's
The
still
early
early.
givings in a season
It's
because
April.
like
It's
the
like,
Angels are at the top for some reason.
hey, you know what? This was also the case last year for a hot second, but I feel like this year we have a better chance. We've won the first two series. That's something we didn't do last year.
Yeah, we've only dropped one game in both of those
Yeah,
series.
not bad.
Yeah, not bad. In those two games we did drop, we gave up 8 runs and then 12 runs. So, if we just don't give up a huge amount of runs,
Yeah, as long as you
turns
don't
out
use
you can win
your
a game.
entire, as long as it turns out, as long as you don't use your entire bullpen in game and then try to win the next day, you're probably okay.
Yes, you're
Anyways,
only supposed to use your entire bullpen during the All-Star game, so everyone gets a chance to pitch.
yeah, that too. I thought you were going to say during a playoff game, then you'd beat the Dodgers, but seemed to work out for them. I don't know, somehow. Anyways, let's move on.
Anyways, let's go to some leagues that are already in motion. The NBA. In the Eastern Conference, the playoffs are set, kind of. So we know the teams that are playoff bound only because we know the teams that have been officially eliminated.
Right,
The
process of
Raptors, the Nets,
elimination.
the 76ers, the Hornets, and the Wizards, because they all have less than 20 wins this season, they are now officially eliminated in the contention. Wait, 20 wins? No, 30 wins. My bad. They're all under 30 wins, which means they're all officially eliminated from the playoffs. Uh, the seeding can still move. There is still that 14 play-in tournament for the last two spots, but at least we know who will be eligible for the playoffs.
Right.
Not so much on the Western Conference just yet. There's still a couple weeks left.
Mhm.
On the other side of the court, of the ice, of the arena, NHL. We are still on Ovechkin watch.
Yes.
He scored both 890, 891, and 892 since we last spoke of this last week, which means he's now 3 away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's career goal record of 894. He can tie it with two, but he needs that 895 to officially hold the record. There are 7 games remaining for the Washington Capitals, and it is funny to see the ticket prices jump 3 or 4 games ahead from like $50 to $300 to be one of the lucky few to watch him break it. Now, all that needs to happen is for him to have a hat trick game and seal it away the next time he takes the ice.
See.
But while we let's just watch the Ovechkin try and win here, we have the end of March Madness rapidly approaching this upcoming weekend.
A shining
The
moment?
Final Four and the championship game will all occur before that one shining moment where one team will raise up the trophy as the NCAA champions, and Manly Man tears will be shed because, of course, they are. In a very, very rare occurrence, as in, this has only happened one other time in the entire tournament's existence of 50 plus years since
Right.
they went to the 614 teams. Then all number one seeds from all four conferences, or all four divisions, conferences, whatever, brackets, however you want to call them, have made it to the final four themselves.
Hmm.
Auburn will be playing Florida in a rematch of the SEC, and Duke will be playing Houston. This was the first time since 2008 when all four number one seeds made it to the final four.
Hmm.
There have been times when number one plays number one in the championship game. We've seen that happen. But yeah, typically someone takes down a number one team. Not so this year. Very rare. I don't like it. It means my brackets got busted all over the place because no one in the right mind, except that person from HR who doesn't watch any
Right.
basketball at all,
They
and
just
puts
look at the
all
number
four in the
ones and
final
drag them
seats.
all over.
Yep.
Those four.
Yes. Those four. They have the number one. Why shouldn't they win?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just math.
Yes. Well, so yeah, we'll see the top number one seats playoff in the upcoming weekend. As for the
Yep.
women's basketball team, almost happened there as well, except for USC. They failed to meet the finals, faltering to the number two UConn Huskies. So in the finals, we have number one seed UCLA versus number two UConn Huskies, number one seed South Carolina versus number one seed Texas. It kind of would have been fun to see number one seed UCLA versus number one seed USC in the finals.
Yeah,
Just
that would have been
just
fun for
because they
us
got to
Southern
play
California
in
people.
Indianapolis, but they're also like 10 miles away from each other or something.
Right.
Well, note of South Carolina, the women's basketball team has tied an NCAA record of five consecutive Final Four appearances,
Damn.
and they technically lost in all those
Yeah,
Final Four appearances, but still made it.
it's impressive.
Yep. Yeah. Sports get a sports.
Sports gonna sport.
All right.
Any other sports?
Um. Oh, NASCAR is going to pick back up soon.
You always forget NASCAR. It's so funny.
And they're always a little side note.
All right.
All right.
Fair
Yeah, let's
enough.
get
Let's
into
move
some
on then.
TV news.
All right. Yes. In TV news this week, we have the return of some animated favorites. Fox has made a rare deal. They've picked up four TV animation series for 4 seasons of 15 episodes each, confirming the return of adult animation with Disney TV Studios through the 2028 to 2029 broadcast season. The Simpsons, Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, and American Dad have been signed to a $1.5 billion extension, which, of course, sees American Dad returning to Fox after 11 years on TBS. That's insane.
I
TBS
mean,
had canceled it and did not intend to renew it. And Fox, of course, picks it back up and then has put it back on network television. Very
mhm,
strange course of events there. Doing 15 episodes each and not the classic 20 whatever will give room on Fox's schedule for its own animated series like Krapopolis and Grimsburg, which the money makes more money or money. Freudian slip. The network makes more money off because they sell those rights internationally and also puts them on streaming services, like how both of those shows are on Netflix right now. They can't do that with the Disney shows because those end up on Disney Plus and Hulu.
mhm.
So yeah, sure, why not? It also is interesting because this means that The Simpsons will continue through its, get ready, brace yourself, 40th season, and also brace yourself, will cross the 1,000 episode mark by the end of this run.
That is guaranteed through this deal.
Yes, yes, that's
Uh,
insane.
it's insane that anything gets 1,000 of anything.
Yeah.
It was insane when it crossed the 500 mark.
So yeah, all those rumors about how like oh Disney might bring it in under the Disney Plus, like maybe they're
Mhm.
hinting at it with all those specials, like maybe The Simpsons and Family Guy will be exclusive. None of that happened. They all came back and because Fox just figured, well, we need something and we got the money, let's just do it. And so they committed themselves until the end of the decade.
Yep, this gets exactly. This commits them through all the 2020s up until 2030 when it gets to
Yep.
have this discussion yet again. And we'll see if
Yeah.
Success Pilot still wants to pump out Family Guy and American Dad stuff.
Turns out. So yeah,
We'll
it
see
will be
which actors of The Simpsons are still around by then
That's
because
the
40
thing. That is the
years.
thing to be concerned about here because we'll be talking about the 40th anniversary of that show in 2029 and it will be insane if any like if we're still able to have that show in the same capacity. It's arguable whether we still right now have that show with the capacity that those voice actors can deliver. I'm looking at you, Harry Shearer. Anyways, so we'll see. There's a lot of question marks about that, but it's interesting to see them making a deal this big.
Yeah, and mm, on the positive side of this, it ensures employment for all these
Yes.
artists for the
This
next 4
is
years over the course of these seasons.
this is an incredible deal for the writers, especially who
Hmm.
have been under fire and are happy to get a good network contract for 4 more years.
Yep.
Anyway, all right,
All
that'll
right.
do it for television news. Thoughts real quick. You say that Sunday will be the White Lotus finale, so we will talk about that next week.
Yes, and I believe tonight will be the finale for The Pit. So I'll talk
Mhm.
about that next week as well.
All right, cool. In that case, let's move on to cancellations and renewals.
What am I no longer watching?
No cancellation this week, but a couple of renewals. Adult Swim will be bringing back Common Side Effects for a second season. That's been kind of a breakout hit for them.
Hmm. Especially
And then
following The
Disney.
Happy Place or whatever that thing's called.
Oh,
Happy Inc.
Smiling Friends
Smiling Friends.
is
Yeah.
what you're thinking of. And then Disney Plus will be bringing back Wizards Beyond Waverly Place, which is the reboot of Wizards of Waverly Place. Speaking of Selena Gomez
Hmm.
for a second season.
Yep.
Then we have one death to talk about. It's a sad one, people. We lost Val Kilmer this past week, age 65. Of course, you know what Val Kilmer was in. I don't need
Oh,
to tell you,
yes.
but of course, he was a Batman in Batman Returns. He was in Top Gun, famously, Tombstone. He's in countless classics. You just typed, actually, it's funny that you typed that because I showed Christy Top Secret last night. She had not seen it before.
Wait, like after knowing that Val Kilmer had died or
Like, no,
not?
yeah, we did. I did it on purpose because I was like, oh, okay, I know what we're gonna watch.
Okay.
And I showed her Top Secret. She did not enjoy it, but it's still a classic to me.
Yes.
Yeah, also his first film, so I thought it was kind of fitting to watch that one. But yeah, R.I.P. Val Kilmer, just a classic actor, impressive range for the dude. He could just tackle any of those parts, action, drama, whatever. And yeah, I mean, it's an elite club of people who have been Batmen, and it's
Wait.
always sad when we lose one. Oh, Batman Forever, not
Wait,
Batman
is he
Returns. I was
returned
thinking
or whatever?
there were two. I was trying to figure this out last
Yeah, Michael
night.
Keaton was Batman for two.
There were two Michael Keatons, one Val Kilmer, and one George
George
Clooney
Clooney.
in
Yes.
the 90s run, 89 to 90s run. And
Right. And the
then
George Clooney one was Batman and Robin.
and yeah. So yeah, you're right.
So that was this one was Batman Forever.
Yeah, two yeah, right. Anyway. All right. Two
Yes.
Keatons, a Kilmer, and a Clooney. All right,
Yep.
let's move on into our
My
last
favorite
segment.
drinking game.
Exactly, yeah. RIP. Let's move into the last section of the show, which of course is fittingly movies. And we start with the weekend box office numbers. So what was our bet last week?
It was for Snow White to remain number one, I think,
Oh no.
which we both got
We
wrong.
both lost, so this is a
Well,
moot bet. So we don't no points are issued, I think. If
well,
we
we
get the
both lost.
number
So
one
we both go
wrong,
set. Yeah, we both take the L here
yeah, we both
because we both
take
thought
a loss.
at one, Snart was going to be the number one movie.
Well, somehow a working man debuted to $15 million this week, exactly $1 million more than where Snow White ended up at number two at 14. So yes, neither of us
It was
were
more
right.
like 600,000, 500,000, but yeah,
Sure, but yeah. So your number two movie is Snow White. That's at 66 million domestic so far. That
that
is
was also
creeping
that was
slowly.
also 66% drop from week one
Yes.
to 14 million.
So it was even more dramatic than we thought it was going to be.
Yes.
Ugh. Number three, The Chosen: Last Supper, which is part of that The Chosen franchise of Jesus-y movies. That's $11 million in its debut. Number four, The Woman in the Yard. In its debut, $9.3 million. And rounding out your top five, another debut this week, Death of a Unicorn with $5.7 million. But don't be surprised if that one sticks around with some word of mouth. I've been
Hmm.
hearing non-stop stuff about Death of a Unicorn this week. Paul Rudd is doing a media tour blitz right now. He was on NPR last night. He was on Seth Meyers and he did the day drinking segment.
Hmm.
Like he's been everywhere. So expect to see maybe Death of the Unicorn stick around in the top five next week.
So, like I said last week, it's also got Jenna Ortega in it, and it's this one is wholly produced by A24,
Yeah,
not something that they picked up at a festival and paid money for it. No, this is their own self-financing, self-produced film.
right. Yeah. All right. As for coming up this weekend, we have a triplet of all sorts of movies. First, we have The Luckiest Man in America.
This is the story about the guy who went on uh, Press Your Luck and
Ah,
continuously won because he studied the board of where the
right,
lights go around and continuously didn't hit the whammy because he knew if it lands on this, then 100% chance it's not going to land on a whammy.
right. Hmm. Okay. We also have Freaky Tales.
Ooh, yeah, you are.
What
No,
is Freaky Tales?
Freaky Tales is an action adventure comedy starring Pedro Pascal and Ben Mendelsohn. It's supposed to get a wide release. I don't know if it's going to because of the next movie.
Yeah. And I saved it for last because this will be your number one movie next week. A Minecraft movie. Bring your kids. I'm sure it'll be fun. Jack Black,
Bring
etc.
your Jack Black
Yeah.
inspired costumes.
Yes.
Bring your
All
Jason
right.
Momoa inspired wigs and abs.
Yep. All right. We need a number for Minecraft movie.
Well,
What
yes, it's going
do
to be a Minecraft movie.
I believe it is or we have to decide on a number and then it's my turn
I've not
to
seen
do
any
first, I think.
projections.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere between either 50 and 80 with this thing.
Let's stick to 50. Okay, let's go for the 80 then. Let's go crazy here.
Okay, let's go crazy here.
All right, so let's go 80.
All right. Do you want plus or minus 80?
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna roll the dice. I'm gonna get spicy. I'm gonna go over.
Okay. I
I
would
think
not blame you with
Minecraft,
that.
untapped resource, no pun intended. I think that there's a possibility could be a huge Sonic-like breakthrough, where it's big with younger kids. It's a property that a lot of people know, that families are in tune with. Like Christy always talks about kids asking for Minecraft books at the library. That's how big this is.
You said the same thing about Dogman.
I did. Dogman did deliver in its first week and trailed off from that. I think this one will have more staying power, but will do just as well as Dogman did. So I think that, yeah, this is probably a correct number.
I think you do have like Jack Black hosting SNL this week, which will help get the word out on this. I just have this because Snow White did so poorly, and
Fair.
we've just
It's fair.
and Captain America also did so poorly, coming in at $80 million. I think
Okay.
that's why I'm like right here between the 50 and 80 mark.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Because yeah, Minecraft could either be one of the biggest bombs of the year, or it could be this year's Barbie. Like those are the two paths that this could take. So we will find out this weekend.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Then
while we worry about that this weekend,
yes.
let's take a look at upcoming.
Yes, some exciting news about some upcoming releases came from Cinemacon this past week. The first little bit was a follow-up to our story from last week, where we talked about the possibility of Coyote versus Acme being picked up by Ketchup Entertainment, the bunch that just put out the other Looney Tunes movie in the theaters. It
Well,
happened.
yep, it did. It went through.
WB, the Warner Brothers made a $50 million deal, which sounds incredibly low considering that we usually talk about money in billions here on the Media Vote podcast.
Well, yes, but they were originally thinking about 80 million for this project when they're shopping it around last year.
Right. So yeah, they took a huge cut out of that. But they saw that this is a company that can put something in a theater and make some money off of it. So Ketchup Entertainment was trusted to take care of Coyote versus Acme. They're scheduled to release it. No current date set yet.
Mhm.
So hold on and wait for it. But it will be in theaters at some point.
I'm gonna put it out there, August of this year.
I could see that if they try to fast
If
track it,
not, yeah, if they
spin
track
it
it, if
around.
not, probably a January release
Yeah,
for
maybe
next
early
year.
next year. Either one of those, I could
Yeah, get
see.
that post-Christmas rush
Hmm. Yeah,
where everything is dead in the theaters, but
right.
people still want to go to the theaters.
Yeah, that would work. Next up, The fourth of the Tom Holland Spider-Man films is now titled Spider-Man Brand New Day and has a release date of July 31st, 2026.
This does place it firmly between the two Avengers films,
Mhm.
and we don't know if Tom Holland will show up in Avengers Doomsday. He was not a part of the ever so long cast of chairs, but that doesn't
No,
mean he won't be showing up.
right. He might be in there somewhere.
Mhm.
Next up, according to Nintendo's own Nintendo Today app, which they announced last week, The Legend of Zelda film has a March 2027 release date. It's real, it's happening, and Sony Pictures is still distributing it. And yes, Nintendo announced that on their own app.
Yep, they didn't announce any other casting, just that
No.
they are shooting for 2027
Yeah.
release date. Mark your calendar or don't, because Nintendo app will probably just tell you when it's coming out.
Yeah, just download the Nintendo app, I guess.
Yep,
Anyways, next up, speaking of Spider-Man, what we guessed would be the case ends up being the case. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, the third in the Spider-Verse trilogy, has been set with a June 4th, 2027 release date, nearly 4 years after its original release date that was slated for March 27th of 24. Obviously, there was scuttlebutt around the release of the last Spider-Verse movie that this was going to take a while. So yeah, turns out that that's exactly the case. Keep waiting for more Spider-Verse.
yes, but if you remember back in 2021 when they announced a sequel to uh
Yeah.
into the Spider-Verse, which was Across the Spider-Verse, the one that came out,
Mhm.
that it would have back-to-back years. And now here we
No.
are, just slowly trailing away from it.
Turns out those movies are incredibly ambitious, and a lot of people work very hard on those, and it takes a while.
And it takes a while to get the script right.
Mhm.
That technically there was also the SAG-AFTRA strike in the middle of
That
this,
also
and the writer's
happened. Yep.
strike a part of this. That happened in the middle of this, but when you say originally you're gonna shoot your shot that you're having an animated film come out the following year,
Yeah. Good
you
luck.
kind of look like fools now looking back at that. Although I think a
Totally.
lot of people kind of figured that was
Yeah,
not going to be the case.
I personally never believed that that was going to happen. So yeah,
Hey,
this
my
is
cup says
all right.
otherwise. Still have that cup.
That's so funny. The cup is wrong.
I know.
Anyways, let's move on. Next up in the animated world, How
Nope.
to Train. Oh, shit. You're right. Not animated. I assumed animated because I saw the
You
number
could
two there.
assume.
But
Yes.
no, apparently they're hedging their bets already, not knowing how the live action How to Train Your Dragon movie is going to do. They're already planning a sequel. A How to Train Your Dragon 2 live action film is already slated for June 11th, 2027.
Yep. In addition to that June 4th, 2027 release date of Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse and the 2027 release date of Avengers Secret Wars.
That's going to be a crowded schedule.
2027, the year of IP
I
strength.
it's never that's the thing is it's never not been the year of
I know it's
IP.
never not going to stop. Yes.
Speaking of IP, but in a weird way that I didn't anticipate. No, this is not a. Oh, I didn't talk about the studio.
What studio?
No, the show, the
Oh, the
studio.
show studio. Well, actually, I
We
haven't
didn't talk
watched it
about
yet.
it.
We'll watch it. Talk about it next week.
See, I was going to say, this is not a subplot on the studio, believe it or not, but a sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood will be coming with a script from Quentin Tarantino, uh, but directed by David Fincher exclusively for Netflix. It will
Yep,
also star Brad Pitt.
he will come back as star in it. So this technically does not count as Tarantino film.
No.
He's still yet to announce what that final thing will be because the critic is officially canned.
Yeah.
And whether or not he will like end on a 10 film note or not.
Yeah. Well, yeah, weird. Very weird. But yeah, I guess
Yep.
we'll talk about the studio next week.
Yes.
Yeah. Because
I'll
I
put it on here with everything else.
totally slipped my mind that I watched the pilot for that.
Oh, I might
Anyways.
be too bad then.
Oh, wait, no,
I
did I
didn't
talk
watch
about it
it
last
too,
week?
but I'll make sure I watch it so we can both talk
Okay.
about it.
Yeah. Anyways, next up, Now You See Me 4 is in the works, and as we anticipate the third Now You See Me movie, which, by the way, has a title, what they should have called the second one, Now you see me, colon, now you don't.
So we have
It
now you
was
see
fright.
me,
Yeah.
now you see me too, now you
Now
see
you're
me, now you don't. And then what I assume the fourth one's going to be is now you see me, now you don't too.
two. Uh, see, they already messed it up. Like they created a Fast and Furious-esque problem for themselves where they have to figure out what to name the next one because they didn't follow a pattern.
Right, because they can't see have now you see me, there you are, and now you see me, peekaboo, and now you see me, the animated series.
It's stupid. It's
I
stupid.
know.
Anyways, and
And of course,
lastly in
everyone's
movie
favorite, now you see me,
news.
Tokyo Drift.
Now you see me to the streets. All right, let's wrap this up. Our last story is Sundance after
Oh,
some
come on, it's
rumors.
right there. Now you see me to Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, that's the classic one. I went for the
Yes,
more
it
modern
is.
version of the same joke.
Uh,
Anyways, after it being rumored last year, it is official. Sundance is officially relocating from Park City, Utah to Boulder, Colorado, starting in 2027.
so we'll not be in Atlanta. We'll not be in Cincinnati.
Nope.
We'll not even be in the same state, Park City,
No.
Utah. I go next door to Boulder, Colorado,
Yep.
to hopefully get Deion Sanders' blessing.
Maybe they'll hang out in is that
Oh
where
yeah, did you
Red
see that?
Rocks
They,
Arena
they, they
is?
paid Deion Sanders like $43 million over the next 5 years for him to stay at Boulder, Colorado, or Colorado
Yeah.
University,
Hang out.
and not like jet off to wherever his son's gonna play.
Well, all right. That's it for movie news. And that means we've done it. We officially did it
Hey,
under
we
two
knew it was gonna be a
hours
long one.
somehow. And
It's
we
gonna be a long one.
we
We
were
did it.
smart to start early. That
Yep.
will be it for the Media Boat podcast. We'll be back next week for probably a shorter episode. I can't imagine that much will happen next week.
I mean,
Says,
we got next week. We got to talk about the studio, White Lotus, and the pit. So no,
yeah, I
no
guess
way it's
big
gonna be
TV
a
week.
shorter episode.
TV week, I guess, next week. But yeah, otherwise, we'll be back next week. If you want to see us in video form, you can do so on YouTube. Search YouTube for Media Boat Podcast and you'll find our channel. Like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications when new videos go live. You can also find us in podcast audio form if you search podcast services for Media Boat Podcasts. You can find us on Blue Sky by searching Media Boat. You can find us on MediaBoatPodcast.com, which I would have updated this week if my computer did not boot me out of the Google account. So I will need you to hang out for a second so I can get your phone's code.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and the next thing. Um, and then if you have questions, comments, want to email us about anything at all, you can email us at mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com, where Mike can read them currently and respond to them and read them on the show. All right,
Yes.
that'll be it. We'll be back next week. We'll
We'll
see
be
you
back with
guys
more
then.
news, more thoughts, definitely more thoughts, and more of us. All right,
Yeah.
bye.